When you hear networking, what comes to mind? What do you think of?
Those painful like mixers at the end of or at the top of conferences that I just always feel so socially awkward at.
Awkwardness, maybe some, yeah, these gatherings, forced. I don't like to use the word forced, but yeah, you get what I'm saying, like kind of a forced gathering. What about others? Awkwardness, really excited. Ready for lunch? All right, I'm going to assume, hearing no one chime in, but feel free to unmute yourself, that there's probably a mix of some folks who networking makes you a little bit nervous, and then other folks who are like, actually, I really like meeting people, but I just like to figure out how I might improve. Here's some tips. So totally, totally fine. I think I get both of those things in maybe every interaction. When I think about networking and how I was taught about networking early on in my career, it was always about a numbers game where, you heard you're supposed to get 500 plus LinkedIn connections, or you need to grow your Twitter following or your newsletter list. And as evaluators, we know that those are kind of vanity metrics, and it doesn't tell us a lot about the quality of relationships. And so when I think about networking, I think about relationship building and about networking being an ongoing process that's happening with every interaction that we have. We don't need to put on our networking hat and say, okay, now I'm going to put on my networking hat, maybe a blazer, walk into a room and like going to make my elevator pitch, right? That's not really how the world is working anymore. A lot of our business and evaluation is all about relationships. It's about trust. It's about building a community. And so you have the opportunity to build that relationship building and networking into every single interaction, instead of saying you need to put one hat on now, go to this event, feel a little awkward, and then leave and you're done. You've checked the networking box. So when I think about networking, I do think about aligning your purpose and your group that you're going to. So I'll give you an example. When I first built my company, I started making all of these coffee chats with evaluators when my goal was to find clients. And generally, evaluators are not my clients. And so there was a misalignment here. It's great to build my network in the evaluation community, but what I was actually looking for was people to hire me to build my business. So there was a misalignment here. And I needed to take a step back and really figure out, where are the people that might hire my services or might have relationships with people who might hire me? Where are they showing up? And that really helped shift my thinking. And it was kind of one of those basic aha experiences where, oh my gosh, Elizabeth, like you talk about alignment all the time in evaluation. Why didn't you make the connection yourself? But it was really helpful for me to start thinking about this differently, especially as we shifted to a virtual space during COVID, where I'm not just going to walk into a conference room and start naturally meeting people. I needed to shift my thinking about where my potential clients might be showing up. And so one of the strategies that I've used is getting more connected with local groups that are meeting regularly so that I can build those relationships. And one example is the Chamber of Commerce locally, where, again, not my ideal clientele potentially, but their clients, the folks in the Chamber of Commerce, might be my clientele, or it might be their board members or their donors. And so by building this relationship and asking questions and being curious and just learning more about other small businesses in my area has started to foster relationships that people can say, oh, my neighbor is actually the president of that organization, or hey, they're on the board of that organization and I want to connect you all. And that has all just happened by showing up in a different space and just asking a lot of questions. I didn't go in, with a business pitch. It was really just trying to get to know people. And I think that curiosity piece is really helpful when thinking about networking. The other piece that's really helpful is the follow-up, and again, that personalization, personalized follow-up and communication. So for example, when things were in person, and if someone were to hand me a business card, I would jot down on that business card, like not while they're looking at me, but kind of after we finished the conversation, where I met them and a couple of things that we talked about. So when I sent an email or a LinkedIn request or a phone call, I could weave those pieces in and let them know that I was really listening and I really valued that interaction. Again, virtually, you might not have the business card, but you probably have your email or something close by, or a notepad that you can jot some of these things down. And taking it a step further, one strategy I use too is to send someone something that might be of interest. So let's say you met someone at an event who's really interested in how equity issues show up and intersect with environmentalism, and you read this really cool article or listened to a podcast. You don't need any introduction or invitation to do so. You can just send someone a message and say, hey, I remembered from when we met or when we talked, you were really interested in this, or your organization does something similar. I read or heard this really cool thing, thought you might be interested, hope you're doing well. It doesn't have to be a please hire me, but it keeps you on someone's radar and lets them know again that you value them as a person and you value their relationship. And in my experience, that's what's ended up translating into business relationships. So it's a longer way to, build these professional connections, and that hopefully will lead to some sort of paid engagement. But it also, again, helps people understand what you do, who you are, and what you're looking for. And so it ends up resulting in more valuable partnerships down the line, even though using a relationship building approach to networking, there's a little bit more work that has to go into it and a bit more time that it takes. So I'm curious, again, there's the handout with a lot of other specific suggestions. I don't want to just regurgitate them because you all can read them, but I'm curious to hear from you, how is that resonating with you? Or are there other strategies that you would recommend to folks on this call for networking?
I miss the old days when we handed each other business cards, because on the back of every business card, I have written, where did I meet this person in what year? Because I have now a number of AEA conferences. And I was like, well, what year was that? And then something about them, what they do. But yeah, all my business cards have something. I hate the business cards that are printed on both sides.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And it is hard. If someone has a really cool color on the back, it makes it difficult to scratch into it. I actually put this in my notes. If I add a contact to my phone, that's kind of my new business card strategy. I'll put a note under their contact information that says, this is where I met them and something interesting. And sometimes I won't even put their company name. I'll just put something interesting about them. So every time their number pops up in my phone, I have that at the ready to go. What about other folks?
Elizabeth, the thing that I think is important, and this is the networking karma conversation I have all the time, is you just got to get out there and continue to engage. And the more you do it, the more fun it becomes, the easier it is, and the more just random things happen.
It's so true, Matt. And the funny thing is, I'm an introvert, but I love networking, and people are very confused about that. Like, how do you like networking? Why are you good at it? And I said, because I just am really fascinated in other people and what makes them excited. And everyone loves to talk about themselves. So if you're just curious and ask people about themselves, half the time you don't even have to do that much in a networking conversation. You can just get someone else talking and start to get more comfortable in that as you move along. But it is just about showing up. And even more than that, it's about showing up as you. You don't need to put on your professional networking hat, like I said, and be someone you're not. People can see that. And if you're yourself and it feels safe to be yourself in whatever space you're in, you know, that's going to take you a long way.
I think on Thursday, Corey Newhouse gave a talk on CQI, continuous quality improvement. On Monday, I got an email that said, do you know a CQI facilitator?
Oh my gosh.
Seriously, from our community colleges here. So I said, I contacted each and then just did the introduction. They're now talking Thursday, a week ago.
Yep. And like the more you know and connect, the more you can make those linkages.
Well, and I think it's important to maintain your contacts as much as it is to make new contacts. So we were recently invited to participate in a project that was, you know, a referral from a referral from a referral kind of thing. So I think, you know, those long-standing relationships, kind of checking in with people and letting people what you want to do is I think the most important thing, right? So once people know what it is you're doing and what you're interested in doing, when something comes up, they'll think of you, right? So at least for me, that's been the most important thing. So, you know, colleagues I've known for 20 or 30 years, we still have those relationships.
Okay, everybody's back and it's time to go to new breakout rooms. I'm sorry, everybody, if I know sometimes these things get so interesting. I'm going to share my screen momentarily here.